After 15 years of marriage, my 39-year-old wife, Mary, the stunning mother of my two daughters and the woman I had always considered the love of my life, blindsided me with an announcement I never saw coming. Sitting across from me in our living room, she calmly stated that she had plans to go on a date with a friend from work the very next night. Mary and I had been together since we were teenagers. Our relationship moved fast. She became pregnant with our first daughter, and, less than a year into dating, we were young, crazy in love, and determined to build a life together. So we got married and welcomed and into the world just 7 months later. Over the years, our marriage had been filled with love, laughter, and the joy of raising two beautiful girls who adored us both. Life was good. Hell, life was great. I had worked my ass off to build my own landscaping company from the ground up. What started as a one-man operation grew into a multi-million-dollar business, giving us financial freedom and a life most people only dream of. We had a beautiful home, took extravagant vacations, and never had to worry about bills. To me, our marriage was rock solid, the kind that could weather any storm. That's why, in a million years, I would have never expected my wife to sit me down and say the words that shattered my world. It hit me like a freight train. I sat there, gripping a glass of scotch, as she explained how, ever since the kids had left for college, she had been struggling with depression and unhappiness. Apparently, in her mind, going out with another man was her way of dealing with it. News to me. As she kept talking, she mentioned a name I had never heard before, Tom from accounting. According to her, he was a close friend who had been supporting her through her struggles. That was interesting since she had never once mentioned being unhappy or even mildly upset before this very moment. And yet, somehow, she had confided in him instead of me, her husband of 15 years together. The idea of her pouring her heart out to another man already stung. But what truly ripped me apart was the fact that she wanted to see where things could go with him. It turned out that Tom was married with 3 kids at home. He played the role of a helpful friend, but in reality, he was nothing more than a predator, sniffing out vulnerable married women and pouncing the moment they showed weakness. And my wife? She was his latest target. Jake, I can't do this behind your back, and I hope you can understand. But I just need to do this for me. I know it sounds selfish, but please, just give me this one night to see how it goes. I was speechless. My blood was boiling, but I knew my wife. Mary was stubborn as hell, and once she made up her mind, nothing in the world could stop her. Yelling wouldn't change anything. Arguing wouldn't undo the fact that she had already decided. So, I sat there, silent, expressionless, just staring at her as she nervously shifted in her seat. The silence between us was suffocating. Finally, I drained the last of my scotch, stood up without a word, and walked toward the stairs. Jake, don't ignore me. Stop pouting and acting childish, she snapped, frustration creeping into her voice. This is happening, and I needed to tell you before I did anything. I would never cheat on you. I just want you to know everything that happens. We've always been honest with each other, and I will never lie to you, baby. I turned and looked at her, the woman I had devoted my entire life to, and whatever expression was on my face must have scared the hell out of her because she instantly curled up on the couch, pulling her knees to her chest like a frightened child. I said nothing. I simply walked upstairs, packed a bag with 2 days' worth of clothes and toiletries, and headed for the garage. As I passed her, she jumped up, crying out and reaching for me. Jake, please, don't go. Everything will be fine. It's just one date. That's all. One night and it'll be over. I promise. After 15 years, you can give me one night, can't you? I shook my head, completely disgusted by what I was hearing. Without another glance, I got into my car and drove away, still struggling to comprehend how the woman I loved could sit there and tell me she was about to cheat on me, and expect me to just accept it. That night, I checked into the hotel. For $100 a night. I didn't give a damn about the price. If I was going to be miserable, I was at least going to suffer in luxury. The calls and texts started immediately, but I didn't want to hear a single word from her. I sent one final message before blocking her number. I won't be in contact until I return Saturday. After your betrayal, that's the least I owe myself. The next day, I went to work and made sure Mary had no way of reaching me. I told my secretary to block any calls from my wife and instructed security not to let her in the building. My plan was already in motion, and nothing was going to derail it. I've always been a man of action, the guy people look to when they need something done. At work and among my friends, I was known as the one in charge. But at home, I had let myself become too soft, too accommodating. I put my wife on a pedestal and treated her like a queen, believing that was the way to keep a marriage strong. But I was wrong. I once read a quote that I had laughed at: "Treat her like a queen, and she'll treat you like a servant." I wasn't laughing anymore. That was my reality, and I was about to change that. By Friday morning, I called my brother, Mike, a detective in California, and asked for his help. He immediately reached out to one of his trusted contacts, David, a private investigator. "David, I need a favor. My wife is going out with another man tonight. We need a tail on her and full intel on the guy." "David, this is short notice, but I owe you. I'll make it happen. You want the guy's info tonight?" "Yes. Home address, phone number, everything. Photos can wait till tomorrow." By the time I hung up, my plan was officially in motion. While my cheating wife was out on her little date, I would be paying Tom's wife a visit, informing her exactly where her husband was that evening. And then, I called my old friend James. He'd been through a nasty divorce and swore off marriage altogether. He took care of his needs with escorts instead of relationships, and for the first time, I finally understood why. "James, I need the number of that service you use." That night, while Mary was out with Tom, I would be in bed with a beautiful blonde, one who wouldn't lie to me, betray me, or ask for anything more than what I was willing to give. Mary wanted to play games. She was about to find out exactly who she was playing with. Mary couldn't believe how childish I had acted, storming out of the house without so much as a word. What a jerk. She thought she tried calling, then texting, but each attempt only made her angrier when I refused to respond. Until his one and only text finally came through. A single message. One word stood out like a flashing red warning sign: betrayal. Her stomach twisted uncomfortably as she reread it. Betrayal? That wasn't what this was. This wasn't cheating. It was just one night, a simple, fun evening out. Nothing more. She thought I was overreacting, and by tomorrow, this whole mess would be behind them. I've forgiven her, and she knew exactly how to make it up to me. But she was so naive. Friday night arrived, and Mary walked into an empty house, her heels echoing in the silence. She set down her purse and hesitated for a moment, reconsidering. Should she go? Maybe she should cancel and call me. Maybe he'd come back. But then again, she had been looking forward to this for weeks. She already knew her decision. She was going. Upstairs, she ran a hot bath, letting the warmth relax her. She shaved her legs, smoothed on her best scented lotion, and then sat at her vanity, meticulously turning herself into the most seductive version of herself she could create. The woman staring back in the mirror was sultry, mysterious, sexy. She smiled at the reflection, satisfied with her work. Next came the final touch, a short, curve-hugging dress she had bought that afternoon. Tag still on. She slipped it over her head, letting the soft fabric glide over her bare skin. No bra. The effect was undeniable. Her full breasts swayed freely, nipples barely concealed by the thin material. She felt desirable, powerful. And then, as she reached for the black thigh-high stockings and garter belt, an unexpected pang of guilt struck her. I have always asked her to dress sexy for me. I brought home a stunning set of lingerie last Valentine's Day, eager to see her in something just like this. And what had she done? She had laughed, scoffing at the idea, accusing me of treating her like some cheap fantasy. She still remembered the hurt in his eyes when she refused. And yet, here she was now, dressing up in the very thing she denied me, but for another man. Her fingers trembled slightly as she attached the garters. She hesitated. For the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she should call the whole thing off. But the moment was fleeting. No, she had already decided. This was happening. She thought I would get over it. I always did. At 7 p.m., Mary sat in front of the mirror, taking in her final look: long, toned legs encased in sheer black nylons, heels accentuating her curves, her dress clinging to every inch of her body. She looked incredible. "Damn, I look like a little slut," she muttered with a smirk. "And it's kind of fun." She couldn't wait to see Tom's reaction when he laid eyes on her. Of course, she would make it clear that fun was off the table. Just dinner and dancing. That was all. She repeated the thought over and over in her mind. Then her phone rang. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the decline button, but something inside her told her to answer. "Jake, thank you for calling me, baby. I've missed you so much. I love you." My voice was heavy, raw with emotion. "Mary, I love you too. That's why I'm calling. I miss you, and my heart is breaking over this. Please, don't do this. I'm begging you, stay home tonight. I'll come back. We'll talk. I'll do anything to fix this. Just tell me what you need, and I'll make it right. Please, please don't go." My voice cracked. She felt a twinge of guilt, but also something else. Power. Hearing her strong, confident husband pleading for her not to go gave her a sense of control she hadn't felt in years. I had always given her everything. Every fight, every disagreement, every decision. She always got her way. And this was no different. She softened her voice, making it sweet, reassuring, dripping with affection. "Oh, baby, I love you so much. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. But this has nothing to do with us. This is just one night for me. I need this, baby. Please, just understand. I promise, after tonight, I'll be yours again forever. We'll talk tomorrow. You'll see. It's not what you think." She could hear him sobbing quietly on the other end of the line. "Mary, please. I'm begging you." But she had already made up her mind. Click. She hung up, swallowing down the lingering guilt. "It's just one night," she whispered to her reflection. "Jake, I'm sorry, but I have to do this for me." She smoothed her hair, touched up her lipstick, and grabbed her purse. Meanwhile, at that very moment, I was sitting alone in my hotel room, staring at my phone. She had chosen Tom over me, over our 15-year marriage. My hands clenched into fists. My anger built, slowly at first, then like a tidal wave crashing over me. I begged her. I have humiliated myself, all in the name of love, and she had thrown it in my face. Somewhere across town, a private investigator sat in his car across from mine and Mary's home, watching everything unfold. At 8 p.m., a black sedan pulled into the driveway. Tom, private investigator, snapped a photo, ran the plates, and sent me the details within minutes. By the time Mary and Tom left for dinner, John had everything he needed. I have Tom's home address. I have Tommy's wife's phone number. And I have a plan. By 7 p.m., a private investigator was following Mary and Tom as they arrived at a trendy downtown restaurant. He photographed them holding hands, captured Tom touching her back, and later, Mary laughing as he leaned in close. As the evening went on, he sent real-time updates to me. By 9:30 p.m., they had moved to a dance club. That's when things took a turn. Photos flooded in. Mary, slow dancing with Tom. Mary, letting him kiss her neck. Tom, sliding his hand over her ass. Tom, cupping her breast through the thin fabric of her dress. At 1 a.m., she finally went home. But I have already seen everything I needed to see. At 2 p.m. the next day, I sat in the hotel room, sipping my coffee, scrolling through the photos. Each image was a knife in my gut. And with every passing second, the humiliation, grief, and pain twisted into something else. Cold, burning, rage. She had betrayed me in every way that mattered. Now, it was my turn to play the game. I had made my decision. Mary wanted freedom, and now she had it. Before I left the home that afternoon, I wrote a note and placed it where she couldn't miss it. I pulled off my wedding ring, centered it on the paper, then took one of my collector knives and drove the blade straight through the middle of the ring and deep into the wooden door. It was a statement, a final message from a me she had taken for granted for far too long. This would be the first thing she saw when she came home that evening. Mary pulled into the driveway, immediately noticing the knife lodged in the door. Her stomach flipped. A sense of unease washed over her as she slowly stepped onto the porch, scanning the house for anything else out of place. As she got closer, Her chest tightened at the sight of my wedding ring, her eyes locking onto the letter beneath it. She yanked the knife from the wood and unfolded the note, hands trembling. Mary, I will be taking the master bedroom. This is my home. You are welcome to stay in any other room in the house, but you are no longer welcome in my bed. Your clothes and belongings have been moved to the guest room. You got what you wanted, your freedom. Now, I have mine. I hope you're happy with your decision and your new life. Your ex-husband, Jake. Her breath caught in her throat. Ex-husband? Tears welled in her eyes as reality crashed down on her. Clutching the note and ring in her shaking hands, she bolted inside, desperately calling my name. The house was dark, silent, except for one sound. Moaning. It was faint at first, but as she climbed the stairs, it grew louder, unmistakable. The unmistakable sounds of me coming from our bedroom. With her heart hammering in her chest, she grabbed the doorknob and threw the door open in rage, and froze in horror. There, in our bed, was a young, blonde bombshell, completely naked, straddling me. Her body bouncing with every thrust, moans filling the room. For a moment, Mary couldn't move. She just stared, watching this young woman ride me in the same bed where we had built a life together. Then the rage hit. "How could you bastard!" she shrieked, her voice shaking with fury and devastation. I barely glanced at her. Mary turned and ran, sprinting down the stairs, out the front door, and into her car, tears blurring her vision as she sped toward her sister house. By the time Mary reached her sister house, she was a mess, sobbing uncontrollably, shaking, barely able to breathe. Her sister, startled by her Mary's hysterical state, sat her down on the couch and tried to get her to talk. "Mary, what the hell happened?" she asked, rubbing her back. Between gasping breaths, Mary spilled everything: the note, the ring, the knife in the door. And then, the final blow. I walked in on Jake, with another woman. Her sister said, "What? Jake? That doesn't sound like him. Are you sure?" Mary sniffled. "I saw it with my own eyes. She was on top of him, in our bed." "Mary, Jake has loved you more than any man I've ever seen love a woman. He respected you, worshipped you. I used to be jealous of the way he looked at you. What the hell happened? What made him do something like this?" Mary wiped her eyes, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "I went on a date last night." Her sister's entire expression changed. "A date? It wasn't anything sexual. Just dinner. Some dancing. That's all." Her sister's jaw dropped. "Are you kidding me, Mary?" Mary frowned. "Why are you making it sound so bad?" Her sister let out a humorless laugh, shaking her head. "Oh my God, you're unbelievable." She turned to fully face her sister, disbelief all over her face. "Let me get this straight. You went out to dinner and dancing with another man last night, while Jake was home alone, and you really thought he'd be okay with that?" Mary hesitated. "I told him it wasn't about sex." Her sister gave her a look of pure disgust. "Holy shit, you're dumb. I seriously can't believe we're related." Mary flinched. "Mary, listen to me. Jake is a man, a damn good man, but no man, no real man, is going to sit at home while his wife goes out on a date with another guy." Mary broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. She held up the letter and ring for sister to see. Her sister sighed, taking the note and reading it over. Her face hardened. "You fucked up. Bad." Her sister exhaled deeply, running a hand through her hair. "You might have just lost the best thing that ever happened to you, Mary. And for what? One night of fun." She shook her head in disappointment. "You can stay here tonight. But tomorrow? You're going back. You need to face this head-on and fix it, if he even gives you the chance." Mary nodded numbly. That night, her sister texted me, "Jake, call me when you can." It didn't take long. "Hey, Kate." "Hey, Jake. My idiot sister is here." I sighed. "Yeah, I figured." Kate hesitated. "Jake, what the hell happened? That was some fast revenge?" I let out a dry chuckle. "You know me, Kate. I don't put up with bullshit." She sighed. "Look, Jake, she's a wreck. And yeah, she majorly fucked up. But maybe you two should talk?" I leaned back against the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling. I don't know, Kate. I'm not even angry anymore. Just hurt. And tired. Kate was quiet for a moment. She's an idiot. But she loves you. Maybe she didn't go too far with that guy. Maybe there's still a chance. I exhaled sharply. Maybe. But right now, I hate her just as much as I love her. I get it. Just be patient, okay? Yeah. Send her home whenever she wants. By noon Sunday, I returned from the gym to find Mary's car in the driveway. Inside, she was sitting at the kitchen table, looking up at me with a hopeful smile. You know, she said softly, we're not getting a divorce. We love each other too much. I let out a slow, cold laugh. Is that right? I stayed silent as I poured myself a cup of coffee, the sound of the liquid hitting the mug the only noise in the tense room. Across from me, Mary sat nervously, wringing her hands together in her lap. She looked like a woman on the verge of breaking, but I didn't care. I took a few sips, letting the silence linger, then finally looked up at her and spoke the words that sealed our fate. That's fine with me, Mary. Divorce or no divorce, it makes no difference to me anymore. The second you broke our marriage contract, our relationship ended. I no longer consider us a couple. You're free to see whoever you want, just like I am. The only difference now is that you won't be sleeping in my bed, and we will never be together that way again. Her face fell. Jake, please. He wasn't my boyfriend, and nothing happened. I let out a bitter laugh. Nothing happened? That's funny. You went out with another man. You dressed like a whore. You had dinner, held hands, let him grope your ass and tits, and kissed him. You spent our time together with him. I leaned forward, my voice sharp and unforgiving. See, that's the difference between us. To you, what you did was nothing. To me, it was everything. It ended our marriage. Her lip trembled, and I saw her first real flicker of regret. So congratulations, Mary. You got what you wanted, no divorce. But you sure as hell aren't getting me back. Her hands clenched into fists. I will get you back. Just give it time, Jake. I'll be back in your bed before you know it. I threw my head back and laughed. Laughed like she had just told the best joke I'd ever heard. You don't get it, do you? I said, shaking my head. I didn't break our marriage contract. You did. The minute you accepted a date with another man, you set me free. The moment you climbed into his car and left your marriage behind, you gave me up. Her eyes flashed with anger. You're such a hypocrite. What about that woman you had in our bed? I smirked. She's young. She's sexy. She's fun. And let me tell you something, Mary. She's the best lover I've ever had. We did things you never offered me. Things I never even imagined were possible. Her face contorted in pain, but I kept going. And you know what? I finally understand now. I see what I've been missing all these years. So why the hell would I give that up? Her nostrils flared as she tried to hold back angry tears. You slept with her just to hurt me. I shrugged. And you went out with Tom to have fun. See how that works? She opened her mouth, but before she could respond, I hit her with the final blow. Oh, by the way, while you were out with your boyfriend last night, I paid a little visit to his wife. Her eyes widened in horror. You what? I smirked. Did you know they have 3 kids? No? Didn't think so. I'm sure that little detail never crossed your mind while you were out grinding up against him at the club. Mary went pale. And guess what else? You weren't the first. I continued. His wife told me that you're actually the 3rd married woman Tom has screwed around with this year alone. The last one? Olivia Wilson from your office. The affair ended her marriage. Mary looked physically ill. So congratulations, sweetheart. You and Tom Boy just helped destroy 2 families. 5 kids will grow up in broken homes because of you too. Hope it was worth it. She snapped, the weight of her actions finally crashing down on her. He's not my boyfriend, she screamed, her face red with rage. And how dare you go to his wife? It was just dinner. You're being cruel. I cocked my head. Did you forget about the dancing? The kissing? The fondling? Her jaw clenched. I leaned in, my voice low and razor sharp. I promised his wife copies of the photos and videos. So when Tom comes home with his pathetic excuses, she'll have all the proof she needs. Just like I did. Mary's eyes filled with tears. You're being vindictive. This isn't you, Jake. I grinned. No, Mary. This is exactly who I am now. Thanks to you. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I want you to stop seeing her. I want us back. I snorted. You want me back? That's rich. You had me. You threw me away. Her voice broke. Please, Jake. I made a mistake. I'll do anything. Just stop seeing other women and come back to me. I took a long sip of coffee before setting the mug down. Then I leaned back, arms crossed, and stared at her. You promise? You'll never see another man again? She nodded frantically. Yes. I swear. I just want you. I chuckled. Oh, you promise, huh? That's funny. You promise to be my wife. You promise to forsake all others. And look where we are. She swallowed hard. I sighed. Look, Mary, if you don't like this arrangement, you can leave. Or we can get a divorce. Hell, maybe you and Tomboy can move in together. He's going to need a new place to live soon. She shook her head violently. No, I don't want that. I want you. I tilted my head. Well, I don't want. Her lip quivered. But you love me, right? I exhaled deeply. Mary, I'm full of love, but I'm running real low on trust. She let out a soft sob, but I wasn't done. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it. For the next month, Blondie spent every weekend in my bed. Mary hated it. Mary would storm out of the house the second she arrived and wouldn't come back until she was sure we were done. I would text Mary once she left, just to twist the knife a little deeper, and I enjoyed every second of it. But, as time passed, something shifted. The fun was incredible, but there was no real connection. And paying for intimacy? It wasn't me. So I ended things. And the moment Mary heard, she pounced. Jake, please. You've punished me enough. I can't take it anymore. I love you. I need you. No one else. Just you. I sighed. If you want a shot at fixing this, we're going to therapy. Twice a week. No exceptions. She jumped up and kissed every inch of my face. Thank you, baby. I promise I'll make this up to you. I pulled away. Don't get too excited. I'm not forgiving you. Yet. 3 months of therapy later, we had a new agreement. Mary signed a post-nuptial agreement forfeiting everything if she ever cheated again. She agreed to GPS tracking, full phone access, and zero tolerance for any form of infidelity. She swore she would never even let another man flirt with her again. And me? I finally had the upper hand. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let us know in the comments. I heard everything Mary said. I listened. I nodded. I went through the motions. But no matter how much time passed, my friend's words kept echoing in my mind. Once a cheater, always a cheater. A year had gone by, and on the surface, things seemed back to normal. Mary worked hard to rebuild my trust, and I, though still skeptical, kept a much closer eye on my wife than ever before. I wasn't about to let history repeat itself. Her sister, Kate, was my unexpected ally. She had seen firsthand how Mary's selfishness nearly destroyed our family, and she wasn't about to let her screw up again. Together, we kept Mary in check, making sure she never lost sight of what she had almost thrown away. Meanwhile, Tom paid the price for his actions. His divorce was brutal. His wife took everything: the house, full custody of their 3 kids, and a fat child support and alimony check every month. Tom, once the smooth-talking office Casanova, was now broke, bitter, and living in a cramped studio apartment. All because of a few dinners, some dancing, a little grab-ass, and a handful of stolen kisses. What a schmuck. Mary was mortified when she found out about Tom's other affairs. She nearly threw up when she learned that their coworker had lost her marriage because of him, too. The realization of how close she had come to destroying her own family hit her like a freight train. She swore she would never make that mistake again. And she didn't. She stayed faithful. She worked every day to prove her love, to me, to our children, and to herself. But no matter how hard she tried, there was one thing she couldn't erase from her mind. The image of that young blonde riding me in our bed. That sight haunted her. It ate away at her, reminding her that she had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. She would never give me another chance to be with another woman again. After all, in her mind, I belonged to her. As for Tom, well, cheating with married women turned out to be an expensive hobby. It could also be a painful one, depending on whose wife he decided to mess with. He was lucky. Lucky that I wasn't the kind of man to take things beyond revenge. But not every betrayed husband was as forgiving. 2 years after his divorce, karma caught up with him. One night, a man from Mary's office was sitting in a pub parking lot. He was another unwilling cuckold, their colleague's ex-husband, and as fate would have it, he spotted Tom heading to his car. About an hour later, another pub patron found Tom lying face down on the pavement, unconscious. 2 broken arms, a cracked rib, and punctured testicles. Poetic justice? Maybe. Time would tell if Tom ever learned his lesson. So, dear listener, if you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button. It would mean the world. And remember, karma never forgets.